Hey everyone, Mark DeJesus here. And what I'd like to do in this video is talk about the importance of hearing from God when you're struggling. When you're having a hard time or you're going through trials or you're hitting challenges, what we need to hear from God. We need to get a sense of what He's saying and what He's doing in our lives. And many times what happens is the circumstances we face start piling up. We get overwhelmed and we start drowning in what we're going through. So many times what we really need seems like it's out of reach. Seems like it's really challenging to hear from God. I don't know if you can relate to this, but I know I can. But I've learned over the years there are some simple things I can begin to do to gain some reaffirmation, some direction, a sense of what God is saying in my situation. Now, this isn't just a snap your fingers, quick switch kind of thing. But there is a progression in what I'm going to share here that has helped so many people that I've worked with, but it has helped my life, and it has proven true in anyone who has taken this and applied it into their own life. So when you're in a situation where you're struggling, no matter what it is or what you're facing, there are three things I highly recommend you begin accessing, because what you need is you need to connect to God in relationship. As a follower of Christ, you have the opportunity to run to the throne of grace, to speak to your Father in heaven freely. But when you're struggling, there's things that often get in the way. And these three things have been very, very helpful in settling yourself and being able to gain direction and get a sense of what God is saying to your situation. Because when we get a sense of what God is saying, doesn't it make all the difference? When you get a witness of what God's word and what God's direction is saying over your life. So here we go. The first thing I want to encourage you to do is something that at times can feel counterintuitive, but it's very important. And that is to engage the power of God's love, which accepts you and receives you right where you're at. So what I encourage people to do is practice total, unconditional, loving acceptance. I abbreviate it as TULA, T-U-L-A. Total, unconditional, loving acceptance. This says I 100%, totally, and unconditionally, lovingly accept myself right where I'm at. Now, many people will say, yeah, let me move on to the next thing. Where's the direction? What God's saying? What's God saying? Get me to the bottom line, Mark. Get me to the bottom line. See, we miss what God is seeking to do. He's not looking to give you a quick fix. He's wanting to draw you into relationship, because God is always in the work of maturing us, growing us, but most of all, allowing us to plug in to the connection that's available. This isn't about striving and trying to fix things or getting into performance-driven Christianity or let me pray hard enough or let me do a bunch of things. No, this is about stopping and allowing yourself to come into alignment with the fact that you are God's child. As a believer, you are God's child. And you need to connect yourself to the total, unconditional, loving acceptance of the Father over you right now. And that translates into you accepting where you're at. Because if you're not able to accept where you're at, the conditions you're in, and the condition you find yourself in, the state you find yourself in, if you're not able to allow loving acceptance to penetrate right where you are, then you're always going to live in a conditional love place. Well, I'll accept love and I'll receive love when things get better. That's not how love operates. God's love receives you right now. And when we accept our situations, you see, this is key because I struggled in my life. Give me the bottom line. What's the thing I need to do? God, what are you saying? And it prevented me from accepting where I'm at. And it kept me from being present where I was at. It kept me from being plugged in. And it kept me from seeing my situation the way that I needed to see it. Because what I needed love to permeate my situation, to plug into God. And see, what I wanted to do is I wanted to escape where I was at. I wanted to get out of where I was at. It's too painful. It's too hard. Loving acceptance says, I'm going to, first and foremost, lovingly accept where I'm at. This is where I am. This is the condition I find myself in. And I'm going to let the loving nurture of God say to my heart, it's okay that I'm not okay. It's okay that I find myself in the situation that I'm in. I'm going to practice. And people say, man, I have a hard time doing this. That's okay. You're on a journey. 100% total unconditional loving acceptance. Before I move into anything else, I must engage with God's loving acceptance. Because when I receive that, I give that to other people. I look at my circumstances and I go, okay, this is where I'm at. I accept that. Loving acceptance doesn't mean this is your permanent condition. It connects you to the love that is available to nurture your heart, to stop the drowning, to stop the flaring of your arms, the screaming, the overwhelm, and God, hurry up and fix my situation now. Loving nurture calms your heart, nurtures you and settles you. It's okay that you're not okay. The second now is I'm going to access the power of God's loving patience. Patience is an ability to hang in there, to endure with you, to stay alongside. I find one of the sayings that has helped me is, this will take as long as it takes. So I'm practicing Tula, I'm engaging patience, so now I take the pressure off. I'm not in a hurry to hurry up and fix this situation, hurry up and get me out of this, hurry up and move me forward, and God, why am I not in that next place, and why isn't this happening, and why isn't that happening? Acceptance, patience. You see, what I'm doing now is I'm bringing down, I'm de-escalating all the tension and all the pressure because it's not of God. He's not putting it on your life. He's not adding pressure. God is a God who takes away pressure. So patience says, it'll take as long as it takes, and I'm okay with that. You see, what we're doing is we're coming into agreement of God's peace and His love for us. So as I'm in that patience, I want to engage the power of God's kindness, because His love manifests to me in His kindness, in my sin, in my struggles, in the strongholds I'm up against, in my trials. He lovingly receives me, He's patient with me, and He's kind. In the presence of kindness, you begin to ask yourself, what does God in His love say to me right now? What does God's love say to me, taking into consideration what I'm going through in my struggle? Because love creates the context, the right perspective. It takes into consideration everything you're going through, why you're going through it, what's brought you here, and it sees you with the eyes of compassion and mercy and grace. So I walk people through this in coaching sessions, and I give this to you as a process you can walk through in your own life. I've shared this in many different ways and many different fashions, but I want to share it in this way, that when you're struggling, this is what you need. Because what you need is to receive God's love, to love yourself with the love that God has for you. And then out of that, what is God in His kindness saying to me right now? And usually what bubbles to the surface is a simple word: rest, trust, forgive. And maybe it's take the pressure off. Usually believers will say to me, I don't know, I struggle. I don't feel like I can hear from God. And I walk them through this process and they say, wow, this is what I'm sensing, but that just seems like it's my own thought. And through me working with them, or then somebody working with them, there's a witness of, I sense the same thing. God's at work here, and you need to guard that. I learned that when I engage the acceptance, patience, and kindness of God, it takes into consideration the season I'm in. And God begins to remind me of the season I am in, not to be in another season or to compare myself to someone else's season. I'm in a particular season. And with that, there's things God's affirming over my heart that only His love can connect you to. If this is a help in your life, join me in the Heart Healing Journey. If you haven't gotten it already, get a copy of the Heart Healing Journey and take the steps that I'm encouraging people to take in living a life where you can live healed, awakened, and transformed from your heart. God bless you.